Welcome back. Welcome back, guys. Today we're gonna be doing. I want to see the history. Today we're gonna be reacting to a video called the hit. I grew up believing. I want to know what the true story, the true origin is, where he come from and everything. So yeah, if you guys want to see more of this, hit the like, subscribe, and put it in the comments. Do you guys believe in Santa Claus? Let me know. I want to know.
He sees you when you are sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good. So be good, for goodness sake. If you live in the Western world, you already know this line from Santa Claus is Coming to Town by Harry Connick Jr. We've all heard the songs and seen the movies, but you may not know the true story behind the legend of the man who can fly around the world in just a single night. And you might now be wondering, why am I wearing a hat that is not a Santa Claus hat? And that is because for this very special Christmas video, I wanted to get a Santa Claus hat, but apparently I have a giant head, and this Christmas tree hat was the only thing that would fit me. I'm going to take this off, and we're going to get on with today's video. Nicholas of Bari was born in the 4th century in the town of Myra, located in Asia Minor. This is now modern-day Turkey. His parents were wealthy Christians who had trouble conceiving a child for many years. They prayed to God every day to have a child of their very own, and as soon as they finally conceived and gave birth to a son, they saw it as truly a miracle. Sadly, Nicholas's parents, they would die of an epidemic that had spread throughout the city of Myra, leaving him to become a young orphan. He was raised by his uncle, who was the Bishop of Myra, who had never had children of his own. He was very proud of his nephew, especially when he grew up to be a very well-behaved boy. His uncle apparently announced to everyone in the church that he had a vision that his nephew would grow up to bring joy to many people. When Nicholas grew up, his uncle's prophecy actually did come true. He was always kind to others and went out of his way to help people. As an orphan, Nicholas had a special place in his heart for children, and he would often help them make handmade toys to play with. Even though he was from a wealthy family, he still had a lot of sympathy for the poor, and
Here's the thing. Here's what I will remember. I thought the whole time that Saint Nicholas, born and raised in, I thought that's what that was. But I guess I'm wrong. I don't know.
wanted to do whatever he could to help. There was a man in the town who had 3 beautiful daughters, but he was so poor he could not pay for a dowry. This meant that his daughters could not get married, and they would have to be sold into slavery because the father could not afford to support them. Nicholas wanted to help, but he did not want to hurt the father's pride by offering a donation face to face. So he dropped a bag of gold down the chimney, which landed in their stockings that were hanging up to dry. The father and his daughters, they jumped for joy, believing that God had finally answered their prayers. He was finally able to pay for the dowry, and his oldest daughter went on to get married. Nicholas came back to do this again for the 2 younger daughters, which is when he was caught in the act. Everyone knew this gold wasn't just appearing out of thin air, and people began to whisper around town about young Nicholas and his kind heart and his generosity. Nicholas was a very simple person who didn't need a lot to be happy, and the money didn't mean much to him. But he knew that his donations could be life-changing for other families in Myra. He decided to continue paying attention to people who needed the most help in the city, and he would always anonymously give away his inheritance to other people. After this story spread around town, people began to leave their stockings and shoes by the fireplace in hopes that they would receive gold from Nicholas as well. Soon after this, people throughout the city of Myra were receiving anonymous presents that would mysteriously appear in their homes. This sparked a spirit of giving, and neighbors were now helping out one another in their time of need without fear of hurting their pride. Anytime an anonymous gift would show up, they decided to thank Nicholas, even if he wasn't the one to actually deliver every single present. People began a rumor that since this man seemed to be able to be in many places at once, he was more than just a devout Christian man. They believed that he had been blessed with magical powers. Now he truly did begin to travel across Turkey, and he reached a point where he had given away all of his earthly possessions, which was totally fine with him. He, at that point, devoted his life to becoming a monk. We know with absolute certainty that Nicholas truly was a real person, because he grew up to take over his uncle's position as the next Bishop of Myra. There are records of his participation in the First Council of Nicaea, including his outspoken outrage over the corruption that he saw within the Catholic Church. In one story, Nicholas witnessed a horrific scene where children had been kidnapped, and he was then able to rescue them. He was seen as such a holy man that he was later canonized as Saint Nicholas, the patron saint of children and, surprisingly, sailors. That's right, Saint Nick loved to travel even back then. He sailed along the coasts of Asia Minor and dreamed of seeing the entire planet. For years to come, sailors would continue to pray to St. Nicholas to help them whenever they were on a long voyage. Legend has it that one day Turkish sailors were out at sea and the wind and waves were so strong that the men were afraid that the boat would capsize. They prayed to St. Nicholas for help and he appeared before them with his arms outstretched. He was able to control the weather and calm the ocean, and the sailors made it home safely. This was just one of the many examples of the stories of St. Nick's extraordinary magical powers, and it just may be a good explanation of how Santa manages to travel in his sleigh through all kinds of weather. The fantastical stories of St. Nicholas lasted for longer than just one lifetime. His story continued to go on for another 1,000 years. It would seem that the magic behind his generosity was so inspiring and powerful, it was enough to keep him alive in the hearts of mankind for generations to come. From the 4th to the 16th centuries, Nicholas became one of the most popular Catholic saints. People continued to pray to him, wishing for his help in their time of need. As time went on, he preferred to receive letters rather than prayers. It was probably much easier for him to keep records this way. Stories of St. Nick's magic and generosity began to spread throughout the rest of the world. In the Netherlands, Belgium and Switzerland, children began to leave their shoes outside on St. Nicholas Day so that the jolly Sinterklaas could leave them presents. Sure enough, small toys and candy were left for them when they awoke in the morning. After the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther wanted to do away with the stories of Catholic saints, so he said that these presents were actually coming from the baby Jesus or Christkindl. People were confused, of course, because they knew that the real gift giver was the jolly old St. Nick delivering the presents to these children. So Christkindl was misunderstood to be Kris Kringle, and the nickname stuck. After the Revolutionary War, there was a movement to reject many of the English ways and start new traditions that were uniquely American. An author by the name of Washington Irving had already made a name for himself by writing and publishing American folk tales that had been told by word of mouth, like Rip Van Winkle and the spooky Legend of Sleepy Hollow. This became a Halloween classic. So when he heard about the Dutch story of Sinterklaas, he decided to officially give him the properly American-sounding name Santa Claus. This is how St. Nick officially became a part of the American Christmas tradition. Over the next few hundred years, the public would learn more about Santa Claus than they ever had known before. In 1809, Irving wrote in his book Knickerbocker's History of New York about a surprising Santa sighting in Central Park. It read, "The good St. Nicholas came riding over the tops of the trees in that self-same wagon wherein he brings his yearly presents to children." He went on to explain that Santa took a break to smoke his pipe of tobacco before getting back in his wagon and flying away. Fortunately, as you might imagine, modern Santa has given up smoking, but he has replaced it with a serious cookie addiction, so it's not exactly kind on his ever-expanding waistline. As the years went on, more and more writers would elaborate with additional details about Santa Claus. In December of 1823, a writer named Clement Clark Moore was walking through the snow on his way home. Under his arm, he had a Christmas turkey for his family, and looking around at the beautiful scene, he was suddenly inspired to write a poem titled A Visit from St. Nicholas. But you probably know that as The Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in the hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. This became an incredibly popular poem. It so perfectly captured the Christmas spirit that in just a few years, nearly every American would know it by heart. Instead of thinking of his time living in Turkey as a 4th century saint, people now imagine Santa Claus to be a chubby, jolly old man who climbed through the chimney to place presents in stockings and leave them wrapped up under the Christmas tree. So St. Nick had always been a sailor and an avid traveller throughout his lifetime. Navigating the open sea is no easy task, especially before the benefits of GPS. But he wanted to get around on land at a much faster pace. In 1821, an anonymous author wrote and illustrated a story called Old Santa Claus with Much Delight. For the first time, the public learned that Santa had upgraded his ride from a rickety old wagon and a boat to a proper sled pulled by a single reindeer. In 1889, poet Catherine Lee Bates introduced the world to Mrs. Claus, and we got to know a little bit more about St. Nick's personal life. We still don't know exactly when they got married, but this couple have what is probably the longest lasting marriage in history. We also don't know if they ever had any children together. As the years went on, the public learned more about
Is it
Santa's
Buddy
progress in
Claus,
his
right?
mission to bring joy to the world. We learned that he moved his new secret hideout to the North Pole and he hired a team of elves to run his workshop. We were introduced to his extended fleet of 8 magic reindeer, and in 1939 he added the newest member of the team, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
In 1891, even the President of the United States was promoting Santa Claus. Benjamin Harrison told the press, "We shall have an old-fashioned Christmas tree for the grandchildren upstairs, and I shall be their Santa Claus myself. Let me that my example will be followed by every family in the land." The very first video footage ever captured of Santa Claus was in 1898 by a filmmaker named G.A. Smith. The world could see him leaving presents for sleeping children on Christmas Eve.
Oh,
of course,
wow.
as time went on and modern technology improved, more and more people were capturing footage of Santa Claus. It was finally time for him to come out of hiding and make his first public appearances.
The bottom center. So this might be like the 1900s now, I bet.
Moving into the 20th century, Santa Claus was always hip to the modern times. During the Industrial Revolution, he was able to improve his operations with his elf employees working the assembly lines in his workshop at the North Pole. Santa became more like the CEO of his toy empire, making sure the operation ran as smoothly as possible. Now that he wasn't running his workshop alone, he was finally able to make the time to begin making public appearances. In 1924, he decided to be a part of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City. He received such a warm welcome from his adoring fans that he decided to reappear every single year ever since. So long as the organizers meet the demand on his rider to provide him a tall glass of milk and some warm chocolate chip cookies in the green room. The 1980s brought the boom of the shopping mall in the United States, and this began the tradition of Santa Claus taking personal requests from boys and girls. There is even a massive party called SantaCon held every year in New York City, which isn't even a real convention, it's just an excuse to dress as St. Nick and party in the streets. There is also the Liverpool Santa Dash and so many other events all around the world that are thrown in his honor. Moving into the 21st century, modern technology has helped us truly break down the science.
That's really cool. Like, and that's pretty cool how they can do all that.
It's just an excuse to dress as
Like, that's pretty cool how they can do they do that and out there and just dress up and have fun, man.
and party in the streets.
It's
There is also the
cool.
Liverpool Santa Dash and so many other events all around the world that are thrown in his honor. Moving into the 21st century, modern
Wait, that I remember I'll Be Home for Christmas when they did like a marathon with all the Santa Clauses. If you guys know that movie, let me know and I'll do a reaction if you want me. I don't know if I can be able to put it on YouTube, but
technology has helped us truly break down the science of just how Santa manages to make his journey. You can track St. Nick's progress on Google Maps' Santa Tracker, and in 2016, The Mirror did an intensive study of the statistics of Santa's magical journey on Christmas Eve. They discovered that in order for him to deliver presents to every single child in the world on a single night, he would need to travel at speeds of 1,280 miles per second. Even though the world loves Santa Claus, that doesn't mean his legacy has been free from controversy. Indeed, he is often blamed for being at the root of making the holiday season about material things rather than having young people remember the true meaning of Christmas. Commercialism is a very real thing, of course, and there is no denying that Santa Claus has helped sell billions of dollars in products every holiday season, from Coca-Cola to Barbie dolls. But in a world where religion and politics divide so many people, there are very few things that Americans agree on, quite like the tradition of Santa Claus. Every December the 24th, children go to bed and they wake up at the crack of dawn, hoping they will find presents underneath their Christmas tree. For many, it's one of the very few memories we all share of having...
I remember, if you guys remember this, Coca-Cola used to do this thing where you go, I think it was at Walmart. All my Americans out there, I know at Walmart they do this thing where, I don't know if they do it now, but they will have the Coca-Cola in a bottle, but it's not a Coca-Cola bottle. It's shaped as a ornament. Walmart or Coca-Cola, please.
But sometimes Santa Claus can't do everything by himself, and he needs to recruit help in unexpected ways. Just one example of this was in 2011. A young couple named Jim and Dylan moved into their new apartment on West 22nd Street in New York City. Then they started to get letters in their mailbox addressed to Santa Claus. They thought it was a joke, of course, and they went to the post office to see if there was a forwarding address for the previous tenant. They were told that yes, there was, but it was, simply put, as the North Pole. At first, they didn't know what to do with these letters, and they had no idea how these random children got their address. They even thoroughly searched for why on Google. Eventually, they decided that they could not ignore these letters. Many of them were heartbreaking letters that came from underprivileged children. Dylan and Jim began to pass out letters to their friends and co-workers who all shared in the responsibility of buying presents for these kids. Soon enough, word spread on Facebook, and they were able to get hundreds of letters fulfilled by kind-hearted volunteers. They now run a charity called Miracle on 22nd Street, where anyone can volunteer to help out with letters to Santa. If you're still unconvinced in the existence of Santa Claus, there are few words that can better express the truth than those of Francis Purcell's Church. In 1897, an 8-year-old girl named Virginia Hanlon wrote to the New York Sun saying that her friends in school told her that Santa Claus was not real. She asked the church to tell her the truth, and they published this reply. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as sure as generosity and devotion exists, and you know they abound and give to your life its highest beauty and joy. Alas, how dreary the world would be without a Santa Claus.
I love a cold. And not getting that PS5 that you always ask. What is a strange tradition? Like, did you guys do, like, I know Christmas Carol see Santa at the mall, the Galleria. I know some of you guys call it that. But let me guys know. Put it in the comments. And if you want to see more of this Christmas stuff, like, yeah, I really want, or like, Christmas house, insane Christmas lights. Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so I can get this video up. So yeah, thanks you guys so much.